The next time you pick up a pencil, look at the word we still use for the dark line inside it. Lead. That word is wrong. The pencil on your desk is not writing with lead. It is writing with graphite, a form of carbon. The same ordinary object that helps children learn letters, lets artists sketch a face, fills out test bubbles and sits forgotten in kitchen drawers, begins with a historical misunderstanding. And that misunderstanding matters, because the pencil is not just a cheap stick of wood. It is one of the most important tools ever made for changing your mind. Welcome to History of Everyday Items. If you like stories where ordinary objects turn out to have strange pasts, like the video, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Today, we are following the pencil, the tool that made writing erasable, portable, cheap, and strangely forgiving. The first surprise is that the pencil was not born in a classroom or an office. It begins in the ground. In the 16th century, an unusually pure deposit of graphite was found in Borrowdale, in Cumberland, England. At the time, people did not fully understand what this black material was. It looked and behaved enough like a dark metallic substance that it became known as black lead or plumbago. But chemically, it was not lead at all. Graphite is carbon. Its particles slide over each other so easily that a small piece can leave a mark on paper, vellum, or almost anything light enough to show it. That sliding quality is the magic. You do not need ink. You do not need a brush. You do not need a bottle, a nib, or a flame. You just press the material against a surface and it gives up a trace of itself. At first, that trace was useful in very practical ways. Pieces of graphite could mark sheep, label objects, draw lines, and make quick notes. But pure Borrowdale graphite was unusual. It could be cut into sticks. It could be wrapped in string. It could be placed in a holder. Slowly, a mineral became an instrument. This is why the pencil feels older than it looks. The modern yellow pencil is neat and standardized, but behind it is a rougher object. A black stick from a mine, held in the hand, leaving a line that could be smudged, sharpened, and erased. The name pencil is older than graphite. It comes from words connected to a small brush. Before the graphite pencil became common, artists and scribes used metal points, chalks, charcoal, pens, brushes, and ink. Each had its own behavior. Ink was permanent and fluid. Chalk was soft. Charcoal was dark and dusty. Metal point was delicate and controlled. Graphite found a strange middle ground. It was precise but not permanent. Dark but not messy in the same way as charcoal. Portable but capable of fine lines. It let artists sketch before committing. It let builders mark before cutting. It let a thought appear on paper without becoming final. That is the second surprise of the pencil. Its importance is not only that it writes in a way that can be revised. But there was a problem. The best graphite was rare. The Borrowdale deposit was valuable because it was unusually pure. Once people understood its usefulness, the supply mattered. Pencils could not depend forever on chunks of perfect graphite cut from one place. To become an everyday object, the pencil needed a recipe. That recipe arrives at the end of the 18th century. France was at war with Britain, and good English graphite was hard to obtain. Nicolas-Jacques Conté, a French engineer and inventor, found a workaround. Instead of relying on pure sticks of natural graphite, he ground lower-quality graphite into powder, mixed it with clay, shaped the mixture into rods and fired them. That sounds simple, but it changed everything. Once graphite could be mixed with clay, the pencil core could be manufactured. It could be made more consistent. It could be made harder or softer. It could be produced at scale, and the exact mixture could control how the pencil behaved. More graphite meant a darker, softer mark. More clay meant a harder, lighter mark. This is the logic behind the marks stamped on pencils. H for hardness, B for blackness, HB near the middle. The familiar number 2 pencil sits in that useful middle zone, dark enough to read, firm enough not to disappear too quickly. So the pencil became adjustable. That may sound like a tiny technical detail, but it is a huge part of why pencils became useful to so many people. An artist might want a soft, dark pencil for shadow. An architect might want a harder one for a clean technical line. A student might need something ordinary, cheap, and readable. The same basic tool could serve all of them by changing a recipe you cannot see. Then came the wood. A bare graphite stick is useful, but it is also fragile and dirty. A wood casing protects the core, gives the hand something clean to hold, and allows the pencil to be sharpened into a point again and again. The familiar pencil is really a small engineered sandwich, wood outside, graphite and clay inside, shape designed so the point can be renewed by cutting away the casing. This is where the pencil becomes almost invisible as technology. It has no moving parts. It needs no refill in the ordinary sense. It does not leak. It does not dry out. It does not ask permission from a machine. It just waits. And because it waits so quietly, we forget how much it changed the act of writing. With ink, a mistake can feel like damage. You cross it out, you blot it, you start again. With a pencil, a mistake becomes temporary. The line is real but not final. That is why the eraser matters. Graphite can be lifted from paper more easily than many other media. Artists once used things like bread to remove marks. Later, rubber and other eraser materials made correction easier. The eraser did not make the pencil important by itself, but it completed the feeling of the tool. It turned writing into a conversation with the page. In 1858, Hyman L. Lippmann patented a combination of pencil and eraser. The idea was not that rubber had just been invented, and it was not that graphite suddenly became erasable. The cleverness was in joining two useful things into one convenient object, a dark end for making a mark, a pale end for taking it back. That pairing is so ordinary now that it almost feels inevitable, but it says something deep about how people use pencils. A pencil is not only for recording what you know, it is for discovering what you might mean. Children learn this early. A pencil lets a letter be crooked before it becomes correct. It lets arithmetic be tried, rubbed out, and tried again. It lets a drawing begin as a faint search line before becoming a shape. It lets a shopping list change when you remember the milk. The pencil made paper less intimidating. Then the pencil became a brand object. One of the most famous chapters is the yellow pencil. Today, many people imagine a pencil as yellow almost automatically, but that color was not a law of nature. Pencil makers experimented with finishes, woods, grades, and names. The Koh-i-Noor Hartmuth history is especially important here. The company traces its roots to Joseph Hartmuth in 1790 and later promoted the yellow graphite pencil Koh-i-Noor 1500 in multiple gradations. It became a famous premium pencil line. The color mattered because pencils were no longer only tools. They were also signals of quality. A pencil could suggest good graphite, careful manufacture, and a reliable mark before you even sharpened it. That is another hidden part of the pencil's success. It became standardized enough to trust. When a teacher asks for a number 2 pencil, the request is not really about romance or craft. It is about predictability. The line has to be dark enough. The point has to hold long enough. The mark has to erase enough. The object has to be cheap enough that a classroom can be full of them. The pencil is a democratic object because it lowers the cost of trying. You can use it badly, you can use it brilliantly, you can lose it, you can lend it, you can sharpen it down to a stub. It does not care whether the first line is good. That is why the pencil sits in so many places where thinking happens before certainty. In a carpenter's pocket, in a mathematician's notebook, behind a cashier's counter, in a voting booth, on a music stand, in an artist's hand, in a child's backpack, on the edge of a crossword puzzle. Beside a phone, even now, when the phone itself can store more words than a library. The pencil survives because it does something digitals still imitate. It makes revision feel natural. Undo, draft, sketch, edit, erase, try again. These are not new behaviors. The pencil trained us in them. And maybe that is the final surprise. The pencil did not change history because it was dramatic. It changed history because it made uncertainty usable. It gave people a tool for marks that could be serious without being permanent. So the next time you call it pencil lead, remember the old mistake hidden in the word. You are holding carbon, clay, wood, and a small permission slip. Permission to begin before you are sure. If this changed how you look at the pencil on your desk, like the video, subscribe to History of Everyday Items and turn on notifications for the next strange story hiding in plain sight.